Eastward is a pixel art RPG adventure game developed by Shanghai-based indie developers Pixpil. It's available on the Nintendo Switch and on the PC via Steam. This review takes place on Steam. You play as John, a digger who is a man of few words. Well, in fact he is a man of no words, as he never says anything. And Sam is a mysterious little girl with a psychic power. John acts as a father figure to Sam, and they live along with all of the other residents in Potcrock Isle, an underground town ran by Mayor Hoffman. There are rumours going around of a world on the surface that is both green and blue, but no one believes this, and people are told not to speak of such things because those that do are sent to the Sharon and banished from Potcrock Isle. However, Sam claims that she has seen the surface world and that it is indeed both green and blue, and not as bad as people make it out to be. Because of this, Sam gets into mischief, which causes certain events to occur, which ends up with both John and Sam being banished from the island and sent to the Sharon. The Sharon, in fact, turns out to be nothing more than a train, to which you are made to board, and this in turn ends up with you heading eastward and arriving into the surface world. The game is split up into chapters, and each chapter takes place in a new town or village, where speaking to the locals gives you various tasks and objectives to do to help you progress throughout the game. In doing so, you learn more about the story of both the area you are in, as well as learning more about your characters, in particular Sam. You also learn about a mysterious force that seems to be sweeping across the area, known as the Miasma. For those that have seen the movie The Never-Ending Story, then this will remind you of the Nothing. The story is charming and highlights the bond between both John and Sam, but there are some dark moments that do occur. I am trying to be purposely vague on the story, as this is what you will be playing the game for, and I really don't want to spoil it. Upon exploring the towns and villages, you will find that there are various secrets and items you can discover that help upgrade your health and weapons, as well as increase your storage capacity in your backpack. There are also various side quests or mini games that you can take part in, which offer little detours from the main storyline, one of which is a game called Earthborn, which can be played in its entirety from the arcade stands scattered around the area, and I highly recommend that you give it a go. The controls are really simple, yet effective. A is your interact button, whereas X is your attack button. Pressing and holding your attack button charges up a more powerful attack, and the Y button activates your item, such as a bomb to blow up objects blocking your path. The right and left triggers switch between both John and Sam when required, and the B button also allows you to leave one character in a certain place if needed. The combat is very basic, as you basically just spam your attack button with John, as he is the damage dealer of your group, until the enemy is defeated. I do feel that this is the one area of the game that could have been improved, as the combat can feel a little clunky and has no real impact or bite to it. Overall, the enemies never pose any real threat, and you can dispose of most of them with ease. Boss fights pose a little more of a challenge, mainly due to the fact that you have to abide by certain mechanics. John is initially equipped with his trusted frying pan as his weapon, which, to be fair, is enough to defeat most enemies in the game, yet other weapons, such as a flamethrower for example, can and will be obtained as you progress. Sam, on the other hand, is not really a fighter, and she acts more as a support character in combat. By switching to her, she can stun enemies for a few seconds, which can prove useful if you really are having trouble. But in reality, you don't really need her at all during combat, as John is more than capable. The puzzle side of the game is really enjoyable, and this is where playing as both John and Sam together really stands out. You find yourself having to alternate between both characters in order to get things done. John can move heavy objects or clear shrubs with his flamethrower, whereas Sam can fit through small gaps or dispel a poisonous substance from the ground. Working in tandem like this allows both characters to overcome certain difficulties and reach locations that enable you to reach your objective. This aspect of the game is a lot of fun. The puzzles start out relatively simple and have a nice balanced level of progression to them. This means they will become a little more challenging as you progress throughout the game, yet they never become that difficult where they will just stop you in your tracks. Autosaves are frequent, meaning that if you die, and you will die at times, then you won't be too far from where you left off. You can also manually save the game by accessing the various save points scattered throughout the game. Cooking allows you to cook the ingredients that you have picked up and prepare a meal, which is then placed into your backpack to access when needed. It operates in a similar way to Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you place 3 ingredients into your frying pan. This then starts a roulette wheel, which you then stop to try and match up the symbols. This then unlocks certain recipes, and these recipes then tell you what benefits you will get from eating the food that they create. For example, they could restore 4 hearts, give you 3 bonus hearts, and increase your attack power for a certain number of minutes. Navigating your way around the towns or areas you are in is really easy, as the map, whilst basic and simple, really is easy to understand and follow, and to be honest, that's all you really need. The negatives I have are really minor, but I still think that they are worth mentioning. The dialogue at times can be long, and in my opinion unnecessarily drawn out. This then stops you in your tracks in certain areas of the game. Where you would rather be just getting on with the game, instead you find yourself having to sit through quite lengthy dialogue scenes, and you find yourself just pressing on the A button on your controller to try and skip through this process as fast as possible. Now, I'd have no real problem with these lengthy scenes if there were a way to get around them, like speeding up the dialogue by holding down a button on the controller, or even just a skip button. I understand that this may mean missing out on some aspects of the story, but having no way of bypassing these lengthy dialogue scenes can make you a little frustrated when you just want to get on with the game. I did mention the combat previously, as I do think the combat in general is really too simple. It tends just to be you mashing your attack button as much as you can, whilst trying to avoid certain mechanics and attacks, until you hit the boss or enemy a certain number of times until it dies. Just make sure you fill up your backpack with food, and you won't ever have any real issues with any enemies or boss encounters in the game, as you can almost always just heal your way out of trouble. I never really felt the need to use Sam that much, if at all, in any part of the combat, as John was always more than adequate. Sure, she can stun an enemy for a few seconds, which can buy you a little time if needed, but that's really all she can do. Don't get me wrong, the combat is fine, I just feel that there was something a little bit lacking in this area. So in conclusion, this game is a beautiful looking pixel art RPG, and reminds me of such games as the old school Zelda games of years gone by, but with more of a modern touch. It's a heavily story driven game, so if you're not into reading a lot of dialogue, then this may not be the game for you. I'm not saying this as a negative, as I really enjoyed the story and I highly recommend the game. It's just not an all out action adventure game, as it's more of an intriguing story driven experience with action and puzzle solving elements included. It's very hard to make this game look and sound fantastic by just showing it to you on a screen, as you really do have to get your hands on it and play it for yourself. This way you can get to feel the experience of the story for yourself, as until you're immersed into it, then it's very hard to get that feeling across to the viewer. This is a great game to just sit back and relax playing over the course of a week, and if you like story driven RPGs, then I have no doubt that this will tick most of your boxes. It's a solid, enjoyable, fun game that should be played and experienced by many people. Anyway guys, this was my review of Eastward. Let me know if you've played it and what your thoughts are. As always, thanks for watching, please do comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.